Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Israel Brief, brought to you by Lay of the Land and hosted by me, Raleen Marks, where we take a look at those top stories making headlines every Monday to Thursday. And of course, the last couple of weeks have been disrupted by our Jewish high holy days and our festivals, but give us a couple of weeks and we'll be back to normal. In the meantime, let's take a look at those top stories, and we begin with news that Jerusalem was on high alert today following tens of thousands of people gathering at the Wailing Wall Plaza, also known as the Kotel Plaza, for the Birkat Kohanim, that's the priestly blessing that happens during Chol HaMoed, both during Pesach and during the Festival of Tabernacles now, which is Sukkot. And the visuals are just extraordinary. Hundreds of thousands of people jam-packed to receive those blessings. Of course, this hasn't been done in the last couple of years because of the global pandemic. So something really, really beautiful to see. But this is not the only reason that Jerusalem has been on high alert. It also follows two fatal shootings of soldiers over the last couple of days. Now, yesterday we brought you the story of a soldier who was seriously injured during a drive-by shooting in Shaveh Shomron. This is slightly to the north of where I am in Modi'in. The soldier later succumbed of his wounds, and he has been identified as Staff Sergeant Ido Baruch. He was buried earlier today. His funeral attended by over 1,000. Our thoughts, our prayers are with his family, his unit and his loved ones. May his memory be for a blessing. Now, the drive-by shooting yesterday that claimed the life of Ido Baruch has been carried out by a newly formed Palestinian terror group called Lion's Den. They have threatened to surprise Israel with a volcano of activity, and not much is known about them. They have been recently formed, but just before Yom Kippur came in, they were responsible for taking hostage a Jewish mother and her children who had taken a wrong turn into Nablus just before the High Holy Days came in. And thank goodness the Palestinian Authority were able to escort the woman and her children to safety. Meanwhile, a manhunt is still underway for the killers of both Noah Lazar, the 18-year-old soldier who was killed in Shuafat over the weekend, and Ido Baruch, who was killed yesterday. We also brought you yesterday the story of the historic maritime deal that has been agreed between Lebanon and Israel. This follows months of very, very intense negotiation. Now, the Israel Security Cabinet today voted to advance it to the next stage, which is for a full cabinet review and a vote. And our alternate Prime Minister, Naftali Bennett, who was a bit skeptical of the agreement in the past, has voted in favor of it being pushed forward. Prime Minister Lapid has also invited leader of the opposition Benjamin Netanyahu to a security briefing about the deal. Netanyahu has been opposed to the maritime deal, and it's not known whether or not he has accepted the invitation to the briefing. Meanwhile, President Biden has lauded what he calls a historic agreement between Lebanon and Israel. And what would a broadcast be without reporting on an ongoing war of words between Russia and Israel? Over the weekend, Prime Minister Lapid condemned Russia's latest strikes in Ukraine that targeted civilian areas and resulted in a number of civilian casualties. Now, President Putin has retorted by saying that Jerusalem hasn't done the same for what he calls Ukrainian or Kyiv's terrorist activities against the people of Donbass. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian ambassador has appealed to Israel to give much more aid to the Ukrainians, saying what Israel has given is not sufficient. And just a reminder that Israel is in a very, very precarious position, trying to balance relations between Israel and both countries who are now at war. In fact, over the weekend, the Ukrainian ambassador claimed that there was a Russian lobby working to ensure that Israel does not send military aid to Ukraine. Israel has sent vast amounts of humanitarian aid to Ukraine and continues to help Ukrainians on a daily basis. However, for a variety of reasons, first of all, we have to be able to defend ourselves on multiple fronts, as well as the precarious position of having the Russian military on our border in Syria makes us sending military aid very, very difficult. But we will continue to bring you coverage of exactly where Israel stands when it comes to the war between Russia and Ukraine. And our final story is a positive. A sports museum to Jewish sportsmen and women has opened for visitors in the town of Ramat Gan, very close to Tel Aviv. With over 1,000 different exhibitions and different objects, you can see for yourself the incredible Jewish men and women who have contributed greatly to various fields of sport. I will not be among them unless shopping for shoes is considered a viable sport. So that's it for me today for the Israel Brief. Don't forget to check out our original content online. There is an article up that takes you on a tour of Oskar Schindler's enamel factory in Krakow. Very, very interesting. Check it out there. It's also on our Facebook page at Lottel Site. We know that Facebook has created havoc lately. We've lost followers and friends, and some have regained. And if you haven't rejoined our community by liking us or following us, please do so. We're also on Twitter at Lay of the Land 5, and of course our YouTube channel where many of you get your Israel Brief. And if you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting that red subscribe button. But until tomorrow, I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, and I'll be back with your top stories before we head into the weekend. Take care. See you tomorrow.